Good morning, field biology. Today we are going to begin our discussion on the insect orders, and usually this is probably one of the more challenging aspects of the insect collection project. As you'll see, the naming of the orders follows the Latin base for language, and as we know, most students do not take Latin class, and so the word bases there can be a little confusing, but I'm going to give you some tips, hopefully, to help you make that a little bit easier. So it's really not as bad as it might seem. So if we look here at the hierarchy of taxonomy, we've mentioned this before, that insects belong to the animal kingdom, and the phylum they belong to is the arthropod phylum, and they belong to the class of insects. And so now what we're going to do is break down that class into 8 orders is what we're going to cover. We're going to look at 8 different orders. There's many more than that, but these are primarily the main insects that you guys would collect or encounter throughout your daily lives. So our first one is Hemiptera. And you should always try to pronounce those out loud eventually, maybe not the first day, but eventually to get the hang of it, pronouncing them helps. So once again, Hemiptera. And this is the true bugs. Okay, so probably a lot of questions you have right now from the meaning of the word to what the heck is a true bug. So let's break down the word first. And you'll see this throughout the majority of the orders we look at is Ptera. That suffix translates to wing. So you guys are probably familiar with the pterodactyl. Maybe you've seen this used in other ways, but ptera means wing. Hemi means half. And so you probably are familiar with the hemispheres of the Earth, the northern and the southern hemisphere. You may have seen it used in other ways, Hemi engines, for instance, dealing with the shape that is part of that structure. And so those are some places we've used the word or the prefix Hemi. And so this means half wing. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's try to understand what is meant by the word or the phrase true bugs, because it is kind of it seems kind of like a big catch-all word, but the way I envision it is, think of like a little kid. Let's say you had a little 5-year-old and you told them to draw a bug. The result of what they draw is probably going to be a member of the true bug family. So we have that, buggy, oval, seed-looking appearance, and then some legs sticking out. Okay, so kind of what you'd think of just a generic looking bug body form, right? In truth, though, the main reason they call them the half-wing insects is if you look at their body, you'll notice somewhere a diagonal line here. See that diagonal? You can look here and see it. Okay. And we get a resultant triangular shape. This is because the wings fold over each other and they overlap. And so the top wing kind of rests across the underwing. Okay, imagine taking your hands and folding them, one hand diagonal over the other, and you get the shape of the Hemiptera wing layout. Okay. So that's pretty crucial, and you'll see that on another insect, how it's different. Okay, so a lot of bugs are a lot of insects, I guess, are part of this grouping. We'll also learn about the mouth parts for each of these, and so Hemiptera, the true bugs, have a piercing and a sucking mouth type, and so depending on what they eat, depends on what they would be piercing and drinking. So some are found on plants as plant eaters. Some are found on animals, and I think you can get the idea what they might eat. There are some parasitic ones that can feed on blood. Many are found in the water. And so these are just a few, the cicada, stink bug, and then one of the many forms of plant bugs and other similar kin. Now, if we go to the next group, which are the beetles, and this is Coleoptera. Okay, so we had Hemiptera, now we're on to Coleoptera, and coleo means sheath in Latin. Okay, I don't have a great connection there for you. If anyone finds one or thinks one, let me know. But the beetles are pretty unique in that what you guys probably always assumed was a protective device, their shell perhaps, is actually a set of their wings. Okay, so we've learned most insect groups have 2 pairs of wings. This is a perfect example of those pairs and how they differ. So their forewings, which would be the front, okay, fore meaning front here, are hardened. We can see in this ladybug, or ladybird beetle as they sometimes call them, how the front wings, okay, open up to reveal the under wings or the flight wings underneath. And so those would be their hind wings. So you can see how they attach to the body. The front ones are hardened. The rear ones are membranous, okay, for flying. So if you've ever seen a ladybug fly, you've seen that process of them opening up, bringing those other wings out and flying away. Okay, now to tell them apart from the Hemiptera, look at the line of where the wings come together. And you'll notice a line that bisects the body here. Okay, and so the line goes perfectly down the center in the beetles, where remember in the Hemiptera or the true bugs, it went like this. Okay, so that's the key, is looking for that line. Coleoptera or beetles also have chewing mouth parts. And as we may have mentioned in class, 1 in every 4 animal species is a beetle type. So currently they are the most common form of insect, or most species or varieties or types of insect. And because there are so many kinds, the things that they chew can vary. They have the chewing mouth parts. Maybe they're on plants. Maybe they're a chewer of plant material. Maybe they are a predator. In fact, the ladybug, you might know, is a predator, feeds on aphids. Very, very highly regarded by gardeners and farmers for the fact that they can help alleviate some of those pests for crops. There's water beetles, basically all over the place. And don't overlook their larval state, the grub. Okay, so here's a picture of a grub. And at your initial look, you might consider it to be a worm, but if you look closely, there are 6 legs down here. And so in grubs, you can see that towards the front of the body, they're insect legs, 6 of them. And that helps us remember that they are, in fact, insects. Here's a bunch of different beetles just showing the some of the variety that they can have in terms of color, shape, size. Some of these are rather large. Don't have anything for reference here. This was taken in Omaha, Nebraska at their zoo and one of the insect exhibits. And being an insect lover and a teacher of insects, I was really interested in that and wished I could have had that collection for myself. Our next group is Neuroptera. And there's more than just the lacewings to this group, but for the most part, if you find a member of this group, it's probably going to be the green lacewing, which is shown here in the picture. Remember, ptera, once again, means wing. Just a reminder about that. And here, neuro means nerve. So if you've heard of neuroscience or neurotechnology, any of those things, it has to do with our nervous system, our brain, and our nerves. And so they call this one the nerve-winged insects, Neuroptera. And why they do that is because of the wings appearance. So these insects have two pairs of similar wings. Okay, we can see one wing here stacked on top of the other, and on the other side they'll have the same layout. But if you notice in the wings, all these lines, okay, they call this the veining in the wings for structural support. And to us, it looks like a bunch of nerves, right? Like nerve fibers or nerve cells. And so because of the abundance of those lines in there, we give them that name, and the common name comes from that too, lacewing. Okay, think of lace, the fabric, all the intertwined fibers and patterns that you see. These also have chewing mouth parts. They're actually predatory insects. So many people might see a lacewing. They're very delicate and small and, bright green color. And initially you may not think of them as being a predator, but I don't know, pretty terrifying looking face if you ask me, with a big eye and the mouthpieces. But these are pretty common. Everybody should try to get one of these this time of year in the fall. They're often in the grass or in the leaves and stuff, and you might disrupt them and they may fly away, and you'll know because it's a bright lime green insect. It's pretty unmistakable for other things we have around here. Our fourth group today is Orthoptera, and these are the grasshoppers, the crickets, and the mantids, or mantises, as you might have heard them called. So ortho, if you are aware of braces on your teeth, you're familiar with going to the orthodontist. Okay, so the term ortho means to straighten or straight. Okay, you go to the orthodontist because they're straightening your teeth, right? Orthopedics is the science of straightening feet and legs and hips and things. So these insects all have very straight wings. So if we look at the wings on, for instance, a grasshopper, okay, we see these long, straight wings. Same thing on the mantis, and even on the cricket, although they're smaller in a cricket. They too have two sets. The front wings, of course, are the protective wings, is what we call them. In our lab in a few days, you're going to see a diagram of a grasshopper that actually refers to them as the protective wing. They're sturdy. They're kind of leathery and often camouflaged. Underneath is where they'll have their flying wings. So the back wings, which are tucked under, are lightweight, large, rather see-through, and these are for flying. Okay. Chewing mouth parts for these guys. And for the most part, they are herbivores for the most part. Grasshoppers, locusts, which are a type of grasshopper, basically. We know through history they have been very destructive to crops. Whether you're studying the biblical plagues or you're studying farming and pesticides and things like that, there's been times where they've really caused some issues for humans and crops. But a mantis, for instance, is actually a carnivore. These feed on other insects, even their cousins, even their relatives like grasshoppers. And if you ever heard the term praying mantis, it's kind of a play on words. They prey on things, but they also hold their arms in like a way that looks like they're saying a prayer. And a little fun fact for you, mantises actually are maybe the only one or one of the few insects that have a neck joint like us. So most insects can't move their head. Okay, you don't see a grasshopper pivot its head on its neck, where a mantis can actually do that. And if you ever get to witness it in real life, it's really a kind of a creepy looking deal to see their head pivot and look at you. All right, here's a few grasshoppers at the Omaha Zoo in Nebraska. So once again, just some things that I was able to see throughout my life. If you ever get to go to that zoo, it is awesome. It's a great zoo. Nebraska's not too far away. Here's some mantises and other related insects. I know it's tough to see that from a picture, but I thought I'd show you some of the variety that's out there. All right, thanks for watching. Now this is Insect Orders Part 1. We've covered 4 out of 8. So if you can go and complete the Google form called Insect Orders Part 1, that'd be awesome. Stay tuned for Part 2, and we'll do some reviewing on Part 1 when we begin Part 2. All right, thank you, and have a good day.